if there's one lesson we learn from this election, I hope it's that being a pandering pussy does not work. We saw it with Scheer, we saw it with O'Toole, and we saw it with Poilievre. Sure, Poilievre was a little bit better, but he had so much to work with. It has me asking the question, like, has the Poilievre hype been a net positive? Because on one hand, I've seen some content creators who have been like, coming out into the fray, supporting Poilievre, making good content, trying to educate more like middle of the road, normie, center left liberal types with content. And I think that's good. I think it's probably gotten more people into the fray for politics for the first time. However, I feel like Poilievre has had an effect where the more, I don't want to say radical necessarily, but like the more out there, like advocates, people from Cosbar. We have, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Esme? We follow each other, but she was speaking earlier from Cosbar.
Yep.
And or people like Billboard Chris, who are advocating for, you could call it a niche topic, but it is a strong conservative topic where people were showing up in droves, like bodies in the streets. It's interesting to it's an interesting question to ask. Like, has this Poilievre hype kind of like killed or died down that energy of people going after these further right issues, with less people showing up? Because with the Poilievre hype has this effect where it's like, well, Poilievre's going to take care of everything. He's going to win. I can just sit on the couch. I just have to vote on April 28th. I don't have to do anything. And this is really like a major problem that this attitude that has affected Canadians that I've noticed since following politics for a little while now, which is, in a democracy, like in a free democratic society, we feel like our only civic engagement, our only civic obligation is writing an X on a ballot box for 5 seconds every 4 years. And to contrast that, you have international students, you have the foreign workers. They don't even have citizenship. And they're out in the streets protesting to change the rules in Canada. And they don't even have citizenship here. But even they are using their, the democratic system of protesting and organizing and asking for things. Yeah, I mean, the fact that foreign interference didn't come up is quite alarming. It's like, wait, there could be 11 traitors in Parliament and we're still going to vote and we're not going to talk about that? Absolutely. But I think in general, just to kind of jump off of that, and this is the last thing I'll say, is I would like to see more like healthy disagreement among people who are freedom fighters further to the right. And like this, because I feel like there was a lot of gatekeeping that happened with Pierre Poilievre CPC camp, like leading up to this election, where they're like, no, we're not talking to them because they're not on board with our chicken shit strategy of being a conservative. If there's anyone to blame broadly of why the country sucks, it's the failure of the news industry, like without a doubt. They're supposed to hold these people accountable.
We can learn a lot from some of Trump's strategies because, as crazy as he may seem to some people, he's done some clever things. And one of the things he's done from the start is he doesn't pander to anyone, especially the media. In fact, the most vicious strategy he has is just running like a bull head on into the media, And when he does that, they can't pretend he doesn't exist, right? And everybody knows.
How do you do that in Canada, right? When all of them are subject, right? It's not just half of them. How do you do that?
I totally agree with Del Tomics here, which is like that this phenomena that happened in the States has been transformative for like so much of, I don't want to exaggerate, but like so much of the world, like, Trump coming out and saying things that were racist, but just saying them anyway. And that was not the end of his campaign, guys. That was the beginning of Trump's campaign. The news calling him racist, that became a daily thing for basically 4 years, and people love him. But what I'm talking about specifically is Trump coming out and saying fake news and undermining the credibility of these legacy media outlets. That whole phenomena has been transformative for a lot of different people. And the problem here in Canada is that hasn't happened yet. for some reason, all these legacy organizations, their credibility has not been properly attacked and properly undermined, front faced with a big bull character like Trump. And, you know, it's sure, you could say I'm silly. Canada is different. America is different. You know, we don't have a Trump, and that's true.
Agreed. I agree.
But still, like, that is what needs to happen in some capacity. Maybe the American iteration of Trump.
What is Polyev 2.0 going to be? Because he said he's not going to step down. Greg, what do you think?
So when starting this campaign, I started a website, savefreespeech.ca. It was to educate people on Bill C-63 while making this content to educate people about the laws and about Bill C-63 and, hey, this is why this bill is bad, blah, blah, blah. I noticed that there's a very, very troubling cultural undercurrent, a cultural trend that's kind of an even bigger problem, which is Canadians are too afraid to even use their free speech. You know, it's like we don't actually have the sort of posture and attitude to even fight for free speech. We're not even using it.
Yeah, like Greg's really onto something with that. What we've been talking about for 6 years now is normalizing the conversation. 6 years ago, people didn't even know the words to use. And we provided those words and we provided the framing of the conversation with them, and getting large groups of people to normalize these conversations and these phrases. It's not shocking anymore. But back then, it was still shocking to people who even didn't agree with transgenderism. They'd be like, oh, you can't say that. You're going to get in trouble. Like, what are you, in fucking high school? Yeah, we're going to say it because it's true, right? So we do have to normalize conversation.
I just want to jump off that point real quick, because people, you know, it's easy to feel demoralized and feel like, oh man, nothing is possible. It's never going to work. Have you ever heard the World Economic Forum phrase, you will own nothing and you will be happy? This is such a crazy goal to have. This is such a crazy vision. But these, you know, elite psychopaths, they're like repeating it and they're saying it and they're repeating it and they're repeating it and they're saying it. And like they have all these people trying to will this into existence. Okay? But this is how you make stuff happen, because before COVID, they're like, we're going to make everybody lock down and wear masks. And if you don't wear a mask, we're going to say you're a psychopath far right winger. And they're like, that's crazy. That's never going to happen. It took like 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks of media propaganda for people to be like, okay, I guess I'm just going to wear a mask for the rest of my life and be terrified to see my family members if they haven't consumed this pharmaceutical product. You know, like, and it started with some person's crazy vision of like, hey, I think the world can be different in this way, you know, and it really is, you know, this is kind of getting deeper into the weeds. It's kind of like into like a philosophical, spiritual part of the conversation. But, you know, sometimes you kind of need to turn your intellect off and just focus on the romanticizing of what you want. Like you need to kind of turn off the pragmatism and be like, this is what I want in my heart and I'm going to fight for it. And I don't care what the odds are. I'm going to go for it because this is what I believe. You know, like that's the type of energy that more people need. Yeah, we need people with conviction and people who are uncompromising. And this is like in a nutshell, that's why I didn't like this conservative party, why I don't like Polyev. You know, not only does he not have the conviction, not only is he not uncompromising, but he's actually encouraging people to kind of be cowards like him, encouraging people to compromise. Hey guys, this is the strategy. Let's be submissive to Rosemary Barton's sensibilities, and that's how we're going to save the country. This is our leader. This is how he's been leading.
So do you think, like Greg, to be honest with you, do you think that if he went farther right, then he would have won?
Well, we're not going to know. We're not going to find out, unfortunately. That's what sucks.
That's the essence and the nut of the question there, right? It's like,
well, let's put it this way. He pandered to Sikhs and wore turbans, and he lost in all of those ridings. So it didn't work there, you know. It's.
Sometimes
I feel like that's not the right question to ask, though. I feel like that's not the right question
yeah,
to
but
ask. This is kind of a whole other diatribe, but it is kind of important, which is the media. Let's picture in your head the Brantford boomer, okay? Picture the guy the liberal supporter who's like giving you the finger. He's like, "Fuck you." This guy probably listens to the CBC. He probably loves his Liberal Party. He probably hates the Conservatives, right? And this is because, once again, of like the liberal media brainwashing or the liberal media programming. This is something that Pierre Poilievre does not challenge. What does the CBC programming say? The CBC programming defines the conversation. It defines the conversation around the election, which we made it all about Trump. Defines the conversation around COVID or the convoy, which is all these people are like disgusting hicks. We want nothing to do with them. And they also define the conversation about what a conservative is. CBC defines the conversation around what a conservative is. And you know what they make that about? They're people who lack empathy. They're gross, disgusting people. They don't say that explicitly, but that's sort of the implication a lot of the time on the CBC programming. So how are you expecting this liberal boomer giving you the finger? How can we actually correct him? How can we correct these people? It's never going to happen by being submissive and saying, "Oh, I guess you're right. I guess maybe I do lack empathy. Maybe Rosemary Barton is right." No, there needs to be some sort of bull show up like like Trump to be like, no, you're wrong. Actually, you're wrong. Conservatives are not people who lack empathy. I should clarify, because I am someone who's very bombastic, and I'm like, you need to say more. You need to be more aggressive. There is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. Like busting out there and like being obnoxious and like using too many swear words. Like there's a right way to do it.
Fuck that. I just want the full fucking cock. Just all lay cock right out. Okay.
So charming. So charming.
And, in the trucker convoy, you have a situation where you can actually see visibly huge outpouring of support from like large numbers of people. And you can imagine sort of having some confidence to be a part of that and to speak out. Or if there's a leader who looks like they're going to be in power, who's going to maybe support that you can trust is going to support your position, then you're more likely to speak out, right?
Yes, you're emboldened and you're empowered. This is a really important point. Continue,
Because otherwise, if you feel like the leader's just got this weak sort of wishy-washy position on it, and you go out of your way to speak out, you're going to be afraid of being up the creek without a paddle when it doesn't come to pass, and then you get screwed, right? Nobody's going to defend you for that, for standing up for that position. And so that's the fear problem. The problem is we have no one that we can trust that's going to stand up, that has a spine. We have somebody that's pandering. And even if Poilievre did go like full on, like you were talking about, it's too late. Nobody believes him. Nobody trusts any of his behavior anymore because he's been so weak on everything. Like, there's no substance behind it, right?
If there's one lesson we learn from this election, I hope it's that being a pandering pussy does not work. We saw it with Scheer, we saw it with O'Toole, and we saw it with Poilievre. Sure, Poilievre was a little bit better, but he had so much to work with between the trucker convoy, the average Canadian complaining about mass immigration, there's so many things, slam dunks that Poilievre could have done, but instead he just stuck with the pandering, being a pussy. And I just really hope that conservatives across the country can learn this lesson with this election.
There's so many issues. Like, I think freedom is pretty left. It's pretty universal. I don't think that's really a left-right thing, I think, maybe not transing kids. There might be a contingent of NPC lunatics who think that's important, but I'm pretty sure the majority of Canadians would agree that like that's not a healthy practice, right? But nobody's speaking out because we don't have any vocal support, and we're captivated by our media. That the media tells us what everybody thinks, supposedly, right? So there's this feeling like you're the only one, right? You've got no support. The media is like, this is what everybody thinks. This is the correct answer.
They did a great job of that during COVID, just to add to your point. Yeah. Just to remind people, this is a huge thing that like animates me in politics in general, which is free speech. I should be able to talk shit. I should be able to joke around, and like it's so nostalgic for me because growing up, I remember having the wildest conversations with my friends, and I always loved that. And I saw that kind of creeping up in our culture, like, you know, by the end of university when I was going into the workforce. I'm like, man, people are really like lame these days. Like they're not around to like have fun. But I was going to say, just to kind of emphasize your point of not even just the pussiness of Polyev or his cowardice, it's interesting what he will bravely say and what he won't bravely say. Okay, he has bravely said so many times, I will get direct flights to Amritsar, India. Like, there's actually so many clips of this. I was doing the research to make a video about it, and I'm like, I can't believe how many clips there are of this. It's kind of alarming, you know? But not only that, and keep in mind, this is in the context of, oh, you can't talk about transgenderism in schools. Oh, you can't be too aggressive on mass immigration. Oh, you can't say anything about the trucker convoy. But he can go to a podium and say it would be a gift to the world if Israel bombed Iran. By the way, we're going to do everything we can to send more munitions to Ukraine. So when it comes to encouraging foreign wars, he can speak as freely and as aggressively as he liked. But when it comes to protecting his own borders and protecting the demographic makeup of the country, or slowing down immigration, which affects the housing crisis, which he loves to talk about, it affects the healthcare crisis and the drug crisis and everything that he loves to talk about, the crime. But he's not going to talk about the immigration in that way, right? So it's very interesting how he suddenly has the bravery on certain topics. I don't know, maybe because he's influenced by foreign groups who want him to do that. Just a thought, but that's I'll land it there.
You know, Wog, you were talking about the guy in the bar, and that's a great analogy. It's like, I think when there's that hot shot in the bar, he's getting all the girls because he's being a jerk, you know. He's being who he wants to be. Like he, just like the guy that is the most offensive, that just doesn't care, that doesn't, like, suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, why is he not sensible to how offended I am? Like, you know. And I think there's a lot of truth to that in politics. And Polyev wanted to be Mr. Nice Guy. Sorry, Mr. Nice Guy doesn't get the girl. So
nice guy finishes last. No, absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to jump on that point, which is, I mean, I made a tweet earlier tonight, which was, wow, surprisingly, hollow catchphrases and chicken shit conservatism didn't capture the hearts and minds of the country. And back to my point about, you know, the focus groups and being overly analytical and intellectual with how you look at politics, you lose the psychological aspect of it. Because at the end of the day, human beings follow human beings. They don't follow focus groups. They don't follow hollow catchphrases. They want to resonate with the human being. And I mean, there's a lot to say on this, but Polyev is lame. And so many conservatives do not realize this. Like, they don't realize how much he lacks in charisma. And that doesn't mean it was like, you know, done from the start. If you don't have the best charisma, like, you need to make up for it with like bolder talking points, bolder, more aggressive, more conservative talking points. Like, you need to make it work. And Polyev just simply did not have that. And it's something that I think a lot of right-wing people don't realize. Like, right-wing people are kind of in this echo chamber, and they're like, wow, Polyev talked about taxes. He talked about all this complicated money stuff. It's like, okay, what if he just came out and said, hey, we got to keep Canada, you know, just something more simple, like not going deep into these details. But, you know, I think a lot of people in the right wing, they don't realize the echo chamber that they're in. And they kind of participated in this like delusional practice of thinking that Polyev was cool or something, or resonating with more people. And it's like, no, like he comes across as kind of fake and weaselly, and that's a problem. I didn't like the apple clip. I mean, the apple clip is okay when he's eating the apple, but like that's a good example of what resonated with human beings. Does the apple clip have anything to do with policy? Nothing to do with policy. It was just pure charisma, and that's what people liked. Hey, I like this guy, you know. And it comes from that authenticity, that rawness, and it's like, I don't want to say it, but it's totally true. Mark Carney has way more charisma. He's way more charming and confident. You know, half the time I would see Polyev on the mic, I'm like, man, this guy looks stressed. This guy's really trying to memorize his lines, you know, like, and that comes across to people. People pick up on that. People who know nothing about politics pick up on that. And it really is like this psychological thing. And I guess it's all to say that, similar to my point earlier, like anything really is possible. If you have a charismatic person on the microphone, they can make Rosemary Barton, the CBC, the entire Liberal Party look like a joke in 2 minutes. Maybe he'll say something that's 2 seconds rather. Maybe it's something that's controversial. Whatever, I'm referring again to like another like sort of Trump scenario where he shows up and like says something outrageous. People talk about it, but it gets people talking and it wins hearts and minds because it's like real human being shit. It's like a real human being who is being charismatic. And that's what I'm hoping to see more of in the Canadian right wing is like just like raw passion, real people saying, this is how I feel. Oh, you can't say that. Well, they did say that. They did say that, and a lot of people actually agreed with this person. So now what are we going to do now? And like to me, like that is the only path forward. And I know that's kind of like sort of abstract, but conviction, people speaking their mind, people being brave and, not trying to constantly cater to the sensibilities of Rosemary Barton. Like, can we please be done with this delusion that right-wing conservatives have? If we are not actually going out there and saying things that are upsetting the liberal status quo, then we're not doing anything. We're not going to be accomplishing anything anytime soon. And once again, it's not to say like, be a loudmouthed jackass who's like, just making fun of people and like doesn't have any decorum whatsoever. I think to be, there is a thing about presenting yourself well and being professional or being, somewhat charming. But yeah, it's like, we gotta be brave and really speaking our mind here.
Interestingly enough, Carney, he was once asked something about the, what was it, the Cayman Islands or something. Some journalist was trying to grill him, and I couldn't believe his answer it was just like, yeah, that's just how things are done. And so it was hilarious because we're so used to Trudeau and fumbling and being a clown and just making an absolute fool of himself. And it's just like, this guy is just a joke. And here we have Carney is like, take something that's completely immoral and whatever, and is something wrong going on with the fight. And it's just like, yeah, we do that. And I mean, that just goes to show, like, he really charmed like the liberals to voting for him like that. But it's like, yeah, we're slick, we're sleazy.
It's really, really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. And I totally agree with you, Slimy, for recognizing that. Like, he stumbles, like, we're in big trouble. Trust me, I did not. I know I'm a PPC guy and I'm always pressuring the Polyev to push further, but it's because I want him to be better to actually beat Carney. I don't like the fact that Carney's in. Carney is very, very dangerous. Because Trudeau came across like an idiot who was only good looking, so he could charm like women and stupid gay men, maybe. But it's like with Carney, you have somebody who is really he stumbles. He says a lot too, but he's much more graceful. He's much more kind of confident with it. And it comes across really, really well. Like this Carney guy is very, very scary for this reason. He is able to deflect. He is able to, like you just said, casually dismiss like horrible accusations. And it doesn't matter how much of a lie it is. It doesn't matter how outrageous it is. It comes across well on camera to people. And that's why it's dangerous, because like he's able to, like, these are not the droids you're looking for. You know what I mean? He's got the Jedi mind trick aura and confidence, which is not good for us because he's not on our team, and he does really feel like a textbook globalist out of a movie. So, and that's why people like us, we need to have an iron sharpens iron mentality. It's fine if we disagree on things. That's actually a good thing. What we need to do is have productive debates, productive conversations about who has the better idea or who has the better approach. And I think, once again, like the common theme that I talk about is encouraging each other to be more courageous and more outspoken and challenging the status quo. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. But again, if there's anything we can learn from this election, is that the cowardice doesn't work. Okay? The cowardice does not work. Sure, there needs to be times where you need to, like, dial in and calibrate your message to be correct, especially when I'm talking about more sensitive issues. But like this cowardice to the liberal media and Rosemary Barton, it's like, guys, we got to throw that in the trash. We got to realize that, the progress, the path forward is challenging Rosemary Barton and challenging the mainstream media. If we're not upsetting them, then we're not actually gaining any ground whatsoever.